Good morning, everyone. So I've been asked from time to time to speak about the political situation in South Africa, something I'm reluctant to do. But there are some aspects of crime which I might mention from time to time, and I might indeed speak a little bit about the politics as we proceed. These are true tales of my African adventures. May this inspire you, deter you, caution you, and above all, entertain you. The problem with politics is it's very subjective. And when you talk about politics from your own perspective, there's always going to be a different perspective. However, one takes that risk. Crime, however, is crime, no matter where it happens. And in South Africa, we have abundance of that. There's no shortage of crime here. The nature of things in South Africa is such that crime is a daily way of life. It's breakfast, lunch, and supper here. You have to be careful what you do, where you go. You have to be on the lookout all the time. I think we are the hijacking capital of the world, car hijackings. We are have the second highest murder rate in the world, the highest rape incidents in the world, and so it goes on. I'll talk about one which I was involved in. I will be talking about another one too. These are both hijacking situations. Hijackings are prevalent here in South Africa. What happens now in one remote part of the country called the Eastern Cape is that you have these very steep uphills in the mountainous areas, and trucks have to haul their goods up and down these steep roads. So going down it's first gear, going up it's first gear, sometimes second gear. The local population who live in the bush there, the tribesmen, they have found that they can run faster than the truck. So what they were doing is they were disabling the drivers. Sometimes they would be shot, as I am told. Other times they would be bludgeoned. Other times they'd simply be pulled out and disabled in one way or another alongside the road, leaving the truck to go backwards over the edge, down the hill, break open, and then they would plunder the truck. Sometimes the truck would go over with the driver, and there's usually a co-driver as well, both in the truck, and of course there would be injuries and of course occasionally death. So I'd heard about these happening at a pace, and I'd never seen one. Anyway, we had a house in a resort area in a very remote part of the country called Hamburg, of all places, and it was on a massive estuary on the Keiskamma River, and that's where we used to go for occasional holidays. I had to go into East London. East London is quite a large town on the eastern seaboard, named of course after East London in London by early settlers. The place was settled by both British and Germans, and so you have this combination of British names and German names around the area. So I drove into East London, a distance of about 60 miles, did my business, and then I was heading back to Hamburg. I was going down a steep incline. It's a beautiful road, very scenic, rolling hills and valleys. In fact, a group of people were found to have been existing in one of the hidden valleys, a huge hidden valley in the Eastern Cape, who had descended into this valley, I think in the late 1700s, and had never emerged until just a short while ago, and they still lived as they did at that time in the late 17 or early 1800s. It's remarkable. So you can actually get lost forever. So there I was, traveling down the road, facing downwards, not going too fast, and I came around a corner and there was a truck. It was coming up slowly, first or second gear, I couldn't tell, but I guess it was first gear because it was a large truck laden with goods. There was a man holding one of those giant industrial monkey wrenches, a huge spanner, and he was trying to beat the driver on the head with it. So he'd smashed the window and was now going to hit the driver with it, which would obviously knock him senseless immediately. The hapless driver was in a panic and was trying to shake the man off by zigzagging with the steering wheel, but to no avail. And the co-driver next to him was also in a panic. These were, the one man was a Xhosa, which is the tribe that you find in the Eastern Cape. The other man was a man of color. In other words, he was what we would refer to in South Africa as a colored man. It means nothing really. It's just a name to describe an appearance, quite frankly. However, this is what was taking place. I then noticed that there were more men running up behind the vehicle, and some were clinging to the side of the vehicle on the strapping and starting to open up the straps. So I realized I'd just come upon one of these hijackings where a truck is taken, the driver disabled, and the hope is that the truck will leave the road and roll over. Having done so, the goods would pour out, and then the 10 or so men who were there would then plunder these goods and run off with them down deep in the valley, hiding them all for collection later on. I don't know if they had more people waiting in the bush. They didn't appear to be armed apart from the large monkey wrench, but 10 men or so is it's not a number of men you would want to take on by yourself. However, I usually carried my 45 Glock with me when I was in rural areas, and I always had it on my hip when returning home, coming into the house, having once been caught by armed men in my house. I swore never to enter my house again unarmed. Anyway, I slowed my vehicle down, made sure that there were no vehicles coming from behind and the front, and then I did a quick U-turn in the road, pulled up close to the vehicle, the truck, hopped out, pulled out my 45, of which I had numerous rounds in. Of course, as you know, they carry quite a few rounds. I think it was 14. I carry a different Glock these days, which has more rounds. And I thought I'd best try to not hit one of them, because if I hit one of them, unless of course they attack me, if I hit one of them, that would be me in court for the next 10 years in court cases. And I live in Johannesburg, which is about, as I said, about 600 miles from there, and that would mean traveling up and down to court. And there's no guarantee that you wouldn't end up on a murder charge, because the justice system in South Africa is not fantastic anymore as far as these matters go. So I started firing, but I was shooting to miss. And as I started firing, they started peeling off the truck. And I needed to get the man with the spanner off the truck, so I started firing to hit the truck near him to make the noise of rounds hitting metal. And this trick worked, and he leapt off the truck, dropped his spanner, and he and his dirty lot ran off into the bush next to the road. So I pursued them. Every time I came closer, they would run deeper into the bush, further down towards the floor of the valley, and then I would fire again and keep chasing them on in this way until they were sufficiently far down for me to feel safe enough to go up and see if the trucker was all right. When I arrived at the top, they were outside the vehicle waiting for me, and they shook my hand vigorously for a few minutes, thanking me for saving their lives and, of course, their truck. So I asked them to get back in and to drive on to the top where they were on level ground, and I would follow them till we got to the top, and then we could have a chat. So off they went. I followed the truck, and when we got to level ground, level road at the top of the hill, the top of the valley, we had a chat and agreed that all was safe now, they could go. And I suggested to them that they don't ride that hill anymore unless they have a truck following them up, which they should all have had on those passes, a vehicle with some armed protection. Anyway, off they went, and off I went. There was another little town I had to go into, which I did, and there happened to be a police officer, a captain, and his mate. I think they were both, no, the one was a lieutenant and the one was a captain. And I approached them and I said, look, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I just tried to help in an attempted hijacking, a type of which hijacking they were familiar with, and should I report it at the nearest police station? And they said to me quietly, say nothing. Put your gun away, just go home, don't say anything. If you say anything, then they're going to have to log this as a case. They are then going to call me from Johannesburg down to court, and this could go on for an ongoing period. And in fact, I may even end up being the one having a case against me for shooting at unarmed people. These people are very dangerous, but the law, as I said, in South Africa doesn't always work in the favor of those who are law-abiding. So you have to be very careful. I took their advice and I went home and never mentioned it again except to the odd friend. So that is one of the things that has happened to me. The other incident I will report on. This was a hijacking where I was able to save the lives of some people. So till next time.